The following is a full interview from the Border Battle with King and CJ. Tune into the Border Battle Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 to noon on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, or OSU Student Radio KXZY.
This is Border Battle with King and CJ with King.
You want to go get a hot dog at halftime? Well, guess what? You can also take the under in the second half of 25. You know what I mean?
And CJ.
You can win Super Bowls right now with me and Grandpa Brady over here. Let's do it that way.
Presented by the fine students and faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY, OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jordan the Great King and CJ the Viking Notch.
Thank you so much, Landon. Welcome back in here to Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY. I'm King. I'm from Wisconsin. He's CJ from Minnesota. We form the Border Battle. Today we're pleased to be joined with Coach Colin Carmichael. Coach, thanks for taking out a few minutes and joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So women's soccer just finished up the spring season. Before we get to that, I kind of want to recap last fall because it was a special season, another Big 12 championship. Just talk about that for just a second. Obviously, there were some concerns maybe on the offensive side with losing Courtney DK and filling that, but obviously no problem scoring goals last year.
Yeah, going into the season, I think you might have been hard-pressed to find a lot of people outside of our group who thought we could win the championship. But, we certainly believe we had a good group and we believed in our kids. And, losing Courtney and the year before Ali Stevenson, we lost a lot of offensive firepower, and that was one of the huge question marks coming in. But as a group, these kids stepped up. Haley Woodard was the offensive player of the year in the Big 12. Anna Beffer was second in the NCAA in assists. So, those two and others stepped up and really filled that offensive hole, and it allowed us to have a ton of success.
Yeah, so, to go off that with offensive firepower with the past fall, you had 13 different players on your team scored a goal this past fall for the season, and only Anna Beffer and Lauren Tressfield are the only ones gone from that. Does that kind of help, too, kind of keeping a lot of that firepower?
I think so. Our returning group, we return a lot of very good players, and it's a special group. They really enjoy each other. They train together. They work together. So it's a fun group. But we return. You don't want to diminish the impact that the seniors had, but we return a really good group. And so players like Charmaine Morgan, who played kind of a defensive role, she stepped up with 4 or 5 goals. Cammie Huddleston, as a freshman, scored some big goals. So we got JC Jones. We got a bunch of kids that can score, and that just makes it a little bit easier when you're coaching. You're not relying on 1 or 2 kids.
You mentioned Charmaine Morgan, one of the more versatile players on the team. How many of those girls do you have on this team? Because you switched to, from a more traditional formation to the five at the back, kind of with the wing backs.
Yep.
What all went into that decision? Because it takes a lot of athleticism, a lot of willingness, and from those wing backs to run to make that happen. Yeah,
first of all, the decision to play that shape, it was interesting. We've played a 4-3-3 shape for many, many years, and we had a lot of success doing it. But we just felt like with this group, we were kind of, trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It wasn't working. And so I was actually watching Chelsea in the EPL play, and they were playing this variation of a 3-4-3 formation. And I started kind of looking at, how could our kids fit into that? Kind of suits what we're doing. And so we implemented it last spring, and we had mixed results. When you try something new, it's going to be a transition. But in August, we continued to roll with it, and our kids really did a great job buying into that shape. Charmaine specifically, the hardest position in that shape is wingback, as you mentioned. And you have to have, number one, the athletic ability to run up and down the flank for 90 minutes, which is very hard. And you have to have the willingness, the mental attitude that you're going to get it done. And boy, Charmaine bought into that role and arguably was our most improved player from her freshman to sophomore year. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the other side. Hannah Webb and Claire Ganser also played a big part of that. So it's a shape that fits our kids. It certainly fitted Charmaine, and we'll continue to develop that shape as we go into next season.
little bit of a proud spot. I'm a Chelsea fan, so I
Oh,
obviously
You're not having a good season. Then.
no, not good, not good right now. Is that something you plan to continue, or is tweaking it always a little bit on the way with the certain personnel that you have? Or
Yeah, for sure. I think college soccer, college sports are unique because you never have the same team every year. You graduate your seniors, you bring in some freshmen, and you can't. To some degree, you can recruit into your system, but it's not like the pros where you have a hole, you just fill a player, you sign a player to fill that hole. It's a little bit different. So I think you always have to be adaptable, and you always have to look to tweak what you're doing. This spring, we looked at a little tweak where we play 2 high instead of 1, and we have 1 less defensive mid. So that would be something we could go to if we want to press a team more, or maybe if we're losing late in the game, we can get an extra player in the attack. So we worked a little bit on that this spring.
So then, talking about other seniors losing, let's talk about goalkeepers. Obviously, is a big thing with Tanya De Souza and Ungaro, of course.
Yep.
How hard is that to replace? Especially Ungaro, she had 78% save from this past fall. How hard is that to kind of try and replicate in some form?
For sure, it's goalkeeper is probably the most important position on the soccer field. And Michaela, over her 5 years with us, just developed into a wonderful leader and a great goalkeeper. So we'll miss her. There's no doubt about that. The good news for us, we had 2 players who redshirted last year. We had Danny Greenlee, who will be a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, and Hannah Warner, who will be a redshirt freshman. So Danny and Hannah split time this spring, and so they got a ton of experience playing, and they're both very good goalkeepers. So I think the biggest loss with Michaela will probably be her leadership, and I think that's something that Danny and Hannah will both have to develop as they go through. But as far as the ability to play the position and make plays, they're both very, very good. So we'll see. You hate to say we'll replace Michaela because she was special, but we feel pretty good about where we are.
you talk about the experience. Is that the biggest thing that the spring season gives? Is the young players to come in and get experience, or is there something else? What's the biggest thing you're looking to get out of a spring season?
Yeah, there's a few things. You want to. I think winning's a mentality. It's a habit. So is losing, and so we want to win games, and I think that can carry over to the fall for sure. But yes, you want to develop your system, you want to develop your shape, but we also want to give opportunities to some of the kids who didn't get to play as much in the fall. They're at every workout, they're at every practice, they're running every sprint, and they don't always, they don't get to run out and start and get to hear their name called. So we feel it's important that they feel involved in the spring and they get opportunities to show what they can do. And we were able to. It's always a balancing act in the spring. You want to win, you want to continue to develop players like Charmaine and JC and Siragusa and Haley and all those kids, but you also want to give those other kids. You don't want to lose sight of the fact that they're deserving of opportunities and minutes as well. So we try to be conscientious of that.
Now, perhaps one of the most underrated experienced players on the team, just a freshman heading into her sophomore year, is Kim Rodriguez.
Yep.
And we talked about it earlier on this show about her playing in the CONCACAF U21 championship, and she wins that.
Yeah.
And now she's getting ready for a World Cup, a U21 World Cup. Her playing on the international stage, how big of an advantage is it for you to have her coming in the fall with experience that some of your players might never get?
Yeah, it's invaluable for Kim. She's first of all, she's just a wonderful player, and whenever we recruited her, we knew she was very good. But her experiences with, she went to the World Cup with the U17 Mexico team last summer, and she actually missed the first couple of weeks of our season. But she got to play over in Jordan against some great teams and gain experience there. After the U17 World Cup, they bumped her up to the U20s, and that's where she won the CONCACAF championship. And she'll be in France in August playing for Mexico. I can't remember their group, but they're playing 3 powerhouses. It's a really challenging group. But that's going to make her better, playing against some of those players in different styles, different cultures, learning how different players do it. It makes her have to adapt to different situations. So, yeah, I mean, we'll miss her. She won't be here for preseason, but there's obviously a good reason that she's gone. But I think getting to play at that level allows her to bring that experience back to us and make our team better.
So then, with this past fall, obviously in the preseason, you guys were supposed to be like the middle of the pack. You end up, winning the Big 12. How exciting was that for you and the players to, be able to defy the odds? I was saying that it's the middle of the pack team, and here you are, and you win it all. So what was that kind of like?
Yeah, for me it was special. I think we've won 6 championships now, and they all have their own special moments. And special memories within that group. This group, because of where we were picked and maybe the view of us coming out of last season, we were just okay. And I think that that may make this one a little bit more special. Our kids deserve all the credit. They came in not only in August, but even in the summer. You could just get a vibe that they were really locked in. Talking to our strength conditioning coach, she said, this group were really getting after it and competing not only in the weight room but on the track and just working very, very hard. So we had a little sense that we could be a little better than people thought. But, they have to go out and perform. And I think about a week into preseason, the coaches started thinking, we're going to be okay here. And I think when we played our exhibition at Missouri, after the game, some of the kids, I think, thought, okay, we're good. We're going to be just fine. So it was great to see that, and then it was great to see them develop. We had some adversity during the season. We missed, Haley missed some games. Marlo missed some games. We had some injuries. We had some illnesses, and they just continue to plug away. And that night down in Austin when we clinched the championship, that's a special night, and I won't forget it, and those kids won't forget it either.
So does that also kind of put pressure then maybe on some of the players to try and repeat that again this year?
Oh yeah, whenever you have success, you just put a target on your chest, and we talked about that this spring. We could be scrimmaging UCO and Edmond. They're going to give you your best shot. You're playing against Texas Tech. It's a Big 12 game. It's just a spring game, but those kids were fired up because we're Big 12 champs. So I think everybody you play now, you just get a little bit extra from them, and that's a good responsibility for our team to have.
You look back at last year, this team was ranked in the top 30 in various offensive categories, 5 or 6 offensive categories. This team was ranked in the top 30, and now you lose Anna Beffer.
Yep.
Can you talk about the relationship she had with Haley Woodard and some of your offensive attacking players, because she could put it on the exact blade of grass that you needed to be successful? And do you see someone else starting to fill that role that can kind of link up with the offensive players like that?
Yeah, first of all, with Anna, she's kind of like our point guard in basketball. She could serve balls right on a plate for people, for Haley, for Marlo, for JC, for Charmaine, and she will miss that. There's no question. And she was just a good leader too, so we're going to miss those two things for sure. But, like anything else, it's up to other players to step up. JC Jones needs to take on more of that responsibility. Marlo Zoller needs to take on a little bit more responsibility as far as setting up goals. Cami Huddleston, Julia Lenhart. So we have players, Kumbaso, we have players who can do it. And, prior to this season, Anna hadn't had that kind of productivity either. So to her great credit, we challenged Anna to take more responsibility in the offensive third, and she did it. And now it's up to some of these other kids to do the same thing.
When you're playing, what was the thinking behind scheduling the way you did for this spring? You play a Big 12 team, you play Nebraska, you play the U20 Mexican national team, which is a pretty packed slate there at the end there, SMU as well. What was the thinking in scheduling that?
Well, we returned a lot of good players. We knew our team for the spring would be pretty good, and so we wanted to challenge them. You don't want to go out and win 4-0 every week, because I don't think that gets your team ready to play. So we wanted to challenge them, especially late, and the Mexico game came up kind of late. We were able to add that, so that made it a little bit tougher. But no, it was great. Whenever good players want to play tough games, you don't want to go out there and play at 80% and win every game. And we played a few lighter games where we could play most of our squad and get the minutes. But some of those, the thinking behind Nebraska, SMU, Tech, and Mexico was let's stress our team out. Let's see how they respond. And, there was good and bad. And I think we came out of the spring with a lot of confidence, but also we learned a little bit about ourselves, and it gives us some things to work on for the fall.
So you've been here, since the inception of the program back in '96. Looking back on the past, 22 seasons in a sense and years, what's that journey been like for you to, just start from it just starting and now where we're at now? It's
been phenomenal. I mean, I'm extremely blessed to get to do what I do. I mean, people have to work, and this isn't really work. It's doing something you're passionate about and getting to do it every day. So that's first of all. I'm really happy, really fortunate that I get to do this. Really thankful. But the journey's been a roller coaster. We started off, Karen and I, on a intramural field that sloped like this, and there was no bleachers and no locker rooms or anything. And you're trying to recruit kids in, and you're going, yeah, this is our game field. And I had kids asking me, Coach, where's the game field? This is a practice field, right? And I'm like, no, this is where we play. So to go from that to what we're about to move into this fall, and some of the success we've had is, there's been ups and downs, good and bad, but I wouldn't change a thing. It's been a great ride.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. You talk about where this program's come from, where it's going. We talked about the success. When we come back, we're going to talk about this beautiful new stadium you're about to get. I know you got plenty that you want to show off about it, so we'll be right back. And you're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the beautiful Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. We're behind the scenes right now. Landon is taking you behind the scenes, so if you go to Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, you'll be able to catch that. Sticking around for a second segment, we really appreciate it. Coach Colin Carmichael from the women's soccer team. We talked about going out into the break. This new stadium that you're getting, we saw it right there you can kind of see the construction in the background during last season. How excited are you for it? And tell us a little bit about some of the great features that are going in this stadium.
Yeah, obviously super excited. It's a game changer for our current student athletes, for our fans, for our alums that want to come back, and also for recruiting. It's just amazing how many people this project's going to impact positively. And obviously we're so thankful for the generosity of of the Patterson family and our friends and the support of our administration, Coach Holder and the administration for making this happen. It's a game changer for our program. The stadium itself, it's going to be, the number one soccer facility in the country for women's college soccer without question. And, it's going to have a student section. We're working very hard to get there's actually a group, I believe, that have created themselves called the Orange Outlaws. So they're trying to get a lot of student support drummed up, and we want that to be the rowdy, crazy student section that you might see at a men's basketball game or something. There's going to be club level. There's going to be suites. So for the fans, the amenities for the fans are going to be amazing. For our team, there's going to be a beautiful locker room. We're going to have our own training room. We'll have our meeting room where we do our video breakdown. There'll be a locker room for the officials, the game day officials. I know they're excited because they've used tents and trailers and all kinds of things in the past. So, and the visiting team as well. We've had them drive over to Gallagher-Iba to take showers, so they'll have their own area. So it's just going to be amazing to go from what we've been functioning with for the last 10 years to what we're about to move into. It's still a little bit surreal. I have to pinch myself sometimes.
So I guess to go a little bit more with the Orange Outlaws, how big of an impact is that going to have, not only on the team to feed off of, but just for opposing teams to come in and now potentially see, this frenzy, the Orange Outlaws?
Well, that's the plan. I think when we created this student section, Neil Patterson, who was our supporter who made this happen for us, he was involved with Sporting Kansas City, and they have a great supporter section. So we kind of took the idea from there that if we could emulate that on a smaller degree and copy that to some degree, we could have this amazing atmosphere within our stadium. And the Orange Outlaws have got together, and they're a small group, but they want to expand. And our hope is, can we make that group 50 to 100 people? Then every home game, hopefully that's the area that all the young people want to sit in. They're going to have their own restaurant, their own area to get concessions. We want to have horns and drums and, banners and flags and all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're going to do everything we're allowed to do within NCAA rules to promote that. But we're relying on a bunch of excited soccer people to get involved. And, it's just going to make obviously the home field advantage is going to be great for our team, but just the whole game day atmosphere, it's just going to make it a fun place to be.
By the way, if those listening or watching are interested, at @orange_outlaws on Twitter. So twitter.com/orange_outlaws. If you want to follow that, they're already just formed this month, and they're already over 100. So that's going to be an exciting things. I know you mentioned the horns, and what is the NCAA regulations or Big 12? Is that a little more strict than you'd like?
Yeah, there are some restrictions. Obviously, you can have noisemakers; they just can't be interfering with the game. So horns and whistles can be kind of tough, but drums and the paddle people and all the things that they do, that's all fine. There's also some restrictions. If you have live music, it can only be streamed in during breaks of play, so you can't have it playing during the game. So we'll figure all that out. But like I said, within reason and within rules, we just want that to be a crazy soccer supporters area where people can go and really enjoy the game.
Just got to get all the supporters some sheet music or something. They got to sing their own music rather than streaming it.
They do. So they've got, if you go on their Twitter page, they do have some chants already. So they're going to come up with some soccer chants specific to cowgirl soccer, which is going to be really cool.
Phenomenal. Looking forward to this off season. You start the year next year. The 3-game homestand and then 1 game on the road that I'm looking at is OU at home,
Yep.
Lamar, Florida coming into Stillwater, which is going to be a marquee matchup, and then going to Urbana-Champaign to play Illinois.
Yeah.
That 4-game stretch right off the bat early in the year, a little bit of a pressure coming out the gate.
You know, the scheduling is one of the toughest things we do because we do it 2 or 3 years out, and you're trying to predict how teams are going to be 2 or 3 years from now. But on paper, you know, we go to Tulsa for the opener, and that's an in-state rivalry. That's never an easy game. Then we've got OU. Enough said about that. That takes care of itself. Lamar were an NCAA tournament team last year who won about 17 games. Then we got Florida. You got Illinois. Loyola were a very good team last year. We played them here. And then we have Cal coming in. So it's a really challenging schedule, but the hope is you might not go undefeated and win all the games, but your RPI should be high. And hopefully you win enough games to where, you know, your one-loss record is good, your RPI is high because you play quality opposition, and also you're hoping that prepares you for Big 12 league play as well.
Obviously, we know from the basketball season, we know how important RPI can potentially be in a season.
Yeah. So obviously California, San Francisco, they're coming here this year. Last year, you know, the team traveled there. Is there maybe for the players still on this team that were there last year, and, you know, unfortunately they lost with losing both, is there maybe some kind of that chip on the shoulder, like, okay, you know what, now you're coming to our place, now it's time to kind of give you a little home cooking as well?
I think so. You know, we tied California. Yeah, that one. San Francisco, excuse me. And their stadium is a turf field, and it was kind of wet. It was a bizarre deal, but they're a very physical team, so it became kind of a knockdown dragout. So our girls will remember that for sure. They were disappointed not to win that game. Cal's just a really, really strong Pac-12 team, and you know, we played them on a Sunday, and we were a little bit beat up from the Friday game. And so, you know, they took it to us pretty good. And yeah, there's no doubt, you know, we don't really talk about that in August, but the week of that game, we'll remind them that you know, we went down 3-0 against them last year, but you know, they're a great team and we're excited to have them in. And Florida's the same. You know, we've played Florida now 4 times, and I think we've taken them overtime twice, but we haven't beaten them. And so, you know, maybe we're due to get one against those guys.
Looking forward after the spring season, you go 5-2. What's the biggest thing you're looking for when you come back in fall and get ready to roll at the end of summer, heading into the fall season? What's the biggest thing you're looking to accomplish early on in the season? Well,
I think the biggest thing in preseason is to integrate your new kids with your returning kids. So a lot of that goes on in July when we're not around. The kids are working out, they're training, they're with the strength conditioning coaches. So we'll expect our returning players to show great leadership and let them know what our program's all about, what our culture is, how we do things around here, so they can hopefully integrate those freshmen in, you know, before preseason even starts. Once we get to preseason, it's about, you know, sharpening up the returning players, reminding them how we do things, and then getting those new kids involved and seeing where they fit in the pecking order. So that's the biggest challenge we have in preseason. Once you get into season, our season's so short, you just got to hit the ground running. You don't have time to build into it slowly and try to peak at the right time. You just got to go win games. So we always try to come out of preseason just firing on all cylinders.
How do you feel about the class you got, the crop of freshmen you got coming in?
Feel great. You know, I think we have 8 kids coming in, and a bunch of those kids are going to have a chance to help us right away. You know, we have 2 internationals, Barbara Sagonye and Grace Neville, who have both represented their countries at youth national level, a little bit like Kim Rodriguez. We have Grace Yoko, Mally Jackson, Anna Lawler. I mean, there's some really good players coming here. So, you know, it's going to be tough to break into our lineup. We got a great returning group, but we feel like we've recruited well. So we're excited about the season.
So I guess to backtrack a little bit, growing up was, you know, did you always have the dream of potentially being a college or like a soccer coach at some point? No?
No, I was in college and I was, believe it or not, doing a business degree. And about my sophomore year, I realized 2 things. I didn't really like the business classes and I wasn't very good at them. And I saw the lifestyle that my soccer coach was living. You know, he had a great life. He got to coach soccer. He got to travel. He got to do camps and be out in the sun all day. And I kind of thought that's a pretty cool life. So that's when it kind of hit me. And so then I went to grad school and I did exercise science, and that, you know, related a little bit more to coaching, and, you know, got involved in some youth soccer, high school, Olympic development, and just built from there. So not till my sophomore year in college, that's when I really looked at the lifestyle and thought, man, that's up my alley.
All right. Well, last one here. You talk about heading in, beat Baylor last year, kind of a team that you finally got over the hump against. A couple more, any other teams you want to you have on the marked on the schedule and a little extra circle around this next season?
Yeah, OU.
Yeah?
Clearly.
Obviously.
No, that goes without saying, but not really. I mean, we take every game as it comes. It sounds cliche, but you can't look ahead. Obviously some of the big games, Florida, California, teams like that, you got to try and beat to get in the NCAA tournament, but the OU one's always marked off.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Coach. Welcome. We appreciate it, and best of luck to you this offseason and getting ready for the fall season.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking some cowboy golf. It's an exciting time. We got a docuseries coming out, and then the national championships at Carson Creek. I sat down with Alan Bratton, the golf coach, and we'll have that next on Border Battle on KXCY.